Ray, would you like to do the intro? Surprise.
Yes, of course. Recorded Monday, February 3rd, 2025. Hey, Brody, what's up? What's happening?
Hey, Ray, fancy seeing you here. Great job with the intro. I'm glad I could spring that on you and you still crushed it.
Yes, I learned eventually that my training algorithm, it caught up. Here we are.
Yeah, I either learn eventually or I have to learn immediately. There's no in between. Yeah.
Do or do not. There is no try. I got you. Here we are.
Yeah, you got it. How was your weekend, Ray? And week since our last show.
This is my last show. Are we making
it?
No,
since our last show.
Could you imagine?
Yeah, we're announcing it today. Andy's going to be replacing you. Sorry.
That would I would tune into that Hunger Game. That sounds amazing. Please let's consider. Oh my goodness, time is an illusion. It's been a whirlwind. I had to take a break from social media. I have my capstone. I sound pretentious, but it's my third master's, so I guess I am pretentious. There's a lot happening. It's all amazing. It's all wonderful, and I feel very privileged to be able to experience it. Hey, that's our maturity level. Yes. And here you go. I've been heads down trying to knock out my problem statement for my capstone while being like a personal problem to myself whilst doing so. But for work, RFP, RFPs are amazing. They're like a party. I feel like the P stands for party. And again, grateful for the opportunity to get to complete those in addition to all the other actual fun that I get to have. Yes, and then my daughter, amazing. So just lots of stuff. We do have a webinar coming up, Defender Experts public webinar. Again, it's very, I want to say, scrappy. So there's not glossy marketing. It's not about the service. It's literally our Defender Experts. So the threat researchers, the analysts, the hunters, sharing their knowledge with the community. Everybody is welcome to join. I'm going to try to post it in the chat, but I probably have not permissioned myself. But I feel like, Brody, you can add that for me.
I'll add it for you, Ray. I can't believe, let's blame Edward, has not given you the permissions yet. Jeez, Edward, if you're listening to this later on.
This is our SFI, Brody. This is right. The permissions where appropriate, okay? This is like, least privilege principle. Here we are. So that it should be webinar. Yes, fantastic. It's just my resolution on my screen. And so that's it for me. How about yourself, Brody?
Sweet. I'm glad to hear things are going well. Before I get into me, RFP is a party every time. Yeah, wow. They're never not stressful. It's never a whole bunch of adults getting into a room trying to figure something out at the last possible minute. Yeah, they're great. Haven't been in one in a while, and now that will lead to me being involved in one shortly, I am sure. And then I'm going to try to do this for small URLs moving forward, just for accessibility. But Ray's Defender Experts webinar can be accessed at aka.ms/Defender Experts webinar. So check that out. All the details are on there. I'm sure it'll be great. And other than that, my little girl was sick today, and I just threw a wrench in my day. But I wanted to be there with her, so it's all good. It was just like, you kind of wake up in the morning and you see your schedule, and that kind of dictates your day, and you understand your priorities. And then all of a sudden, like, family hits, and it's just like, nope, this is now my priority. So luckily we're at a good place, and I have good team members who understand. And I got to work twice as hard tomorrow to deal with it. So be it. But other than that, it's freezing cold here in Calgary. Normally it's not this cold for an extended period of time, but it's -25 right now. It's not ideal. I've been in colder. I'm from Winnipeg, where it's -40 all the time, basically. So this is, it's not great, but it's not awesome, right? It's not t-shirt weather. So over the weekend, hunkered down, chilled out, literally. Work-wise, over the past week, I've been, again, just neck deep in Azure policy related reporting capabilities. I'm working with a team on a very interesting Power BI dashboard that will pull data for a customer's Power BI estate effectively, right? Their compliance, all the pie charts, all the time frames that you can select, and we're just getting it updated to enable for the customer, and I can't wait to show them that. So that's going to be exciting.
Awesome. Is it different? Is it like a different type of dashboard than stuff you've previously done?
I've never worked with Power BI on a customer engagement before, and the built-in Defender for Cloud compliance governance, or I think it's compliance. I think it's the compliance report in Defender for Cloud is a live dashboard where you can see compliance across the estate, but it's good enough and it's live, it's near real time. But the customer needs to be able to get far more granular in the reporting than it offered. And so I think it's decent, but this is where Power BI comes in to basically give people way more options. And this is a solution that was developed by members of the industry solutions team in Europe originally. And I learned about it on a previous public sector customer engagement I had, where they were just blown away. They're like, wow, it's a dashboard, and it's like, it's a better dashboard with other colors and stuff. And so it was my idea on this project, like, oh, hey, this sounds like a job for CCO Insights. But it's been hilariously delayed because since the last update, there were a bunch of code changes and the developers have had time restrictions and whatnot. But so I've been like, politely talking to them every day, like, hey, how's it going? How's that report going? How's it going? And they are not sick of me yet. And so it's going to come out. I'll actually show you what it looks like when it's ready to go. Like obviously a mock-up that's not.
Yeah, of course. But do you think you can templatize it? Because that sounds pretty incredible.
I know it is. Yeah. And it's not just Azure policy compliance. It can pull in other data sources as well, as my understanding. And honestly, I think it's awesome. I mean, it would be pretty hard for Microsoft to build all that functionality into the Azure portal natively. So you need to have something like this. It's just not included, but it's open source. It's on GitHub, and Microsoft has internal funding and resources to maintain it. But it's an open source project, so it's not like you can call Premier if it's not working, right? But my understanding is once it's live, it's basically like set and forget, unless there's a massive structural change in terms of how policies are called on the graph. So it's cool. It'll look cool when I will show that maybe on the next podcast, because I think everyone will get a kick out of it. Yeah.
I love a good dashboard, so I'm already excited.
Who doesn't love a good dashboard? Absolutely. Sweet. Well, that's basically it for me. Just working, staying warm. You're working, staying partied up with RFPs. So it sounds like we should get you.
It's a great thing to get the influx of RFPs, and it's an even more wonderful thing to be the RFP go-to, right? It's an adventure.
You're the go-to.
Well, yeah, so that's fun. So there's that. It's just good. It's good, and I feel empowered to just drive these initiatives, and we'll see. We'll see what comes from it. But it's a lot of hours, unfortunately. For my social life, but most importantly for the prospective customers and the business. So that's all that really matters.
Thank you for writing your Connect live in front of me.
I do what I can. I just want it on the record. Let's get the timestamp.
The worst part about RFPs is when you don't get the bid.
Hey, you know what? If you're not winning, you're learning, right? So
again, writing your Connect in front of me. Yeah, there you go. I'm just competitive. I'm like, all that effort and like what? What was it? The money? Anyway, I digress. Let's bring on our guest. Does that sound good to you, Ray?
Oh, yes. I can't wait.
We love guests. We love guests here at the Microsoft Security Insights Show. Welcome to the show, Andy Jha. How are you today? Would you mind doing an intro and tell us about your super sweet office behind you? Because that is the best lighting setup I've seen in a while.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for having me. So I am a security technical specialist at Microsoft. So I work in our field in pre-sales and specialize on all the different things, in the Defender stack. So pretty much anything that usually when I introduce myself to customers, I say just anything with the Defender brand in front of it is pretty much something that I'm responsible for, and plus Sentinel. And so, yeah, and today's actually been a crazy day as well, Brody. I just transitioned from U.S. manufacturing to the Microsoft Federal organization supporting the DoD team, and specifically Air Force and Space Force. So
Wow.
it was an onboarding day for me. I got forwarded a lot of different meetings, and so my calendar
That's not
filled up.
trivial. It's like a completely different, like just even the tenant act, like that's, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Really-
So it's a pretty big move, and I'm really excited about it because I have to get federal identity, and then my manager has nominated me for security clearance, which I've had before. And we've
Mhm.
talked about my background. I've been in the military before, so but it's still like a long process to get it. A lot of interviews with family, friends, everyone within your inner circle, where you've traveled like the last 10 years, so on and so forth. So yeah, I'm super excited. Trying to get back into the whole military mindset of all the different acronyms that they use. That I brain dumped long ago after I left. So yeah, it's been a fun day.
You shelved a bunch of military acronyms for a bunch of Microsoft acronyms.
I know. I was looking
Now
to
you have
say,
to do both.
come on, you know the acronyms. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, good times, Andy. Congrats on your new move there.
Thank you.
You have to do a lie detector with that clearance, or is that not? That's the next level up.
Yeah, so there's actually 3 levels of there's secret, which is like the basic one. Everyone in the military gets that. And then there's top secret SCI, which is single something. I can't actually remember what it stands for. And then there's like full scope, which is poly. So there's like 3 different levels of top secret, and then of course there's even higher than that. I'm probably just going to go for the basic top secret at first.
Yeah, copy that. Sounds good. I've never been hooked up to a machine like that, and I think that would be quite stressful. So I'm sure you have colleagues who have stories, but man, that would be a trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool, man. Yeah, sweet. Okay, so Andy, so you're finally here to solve the question that all of customers ask my team on the industry solutions side, which is, Microsoft, can you give me a list of all the services that are available in public sector versus private sector right now? Go. You're going to solve that, right?
I think we have some documentation on the Learn site that can tell you what is available.
That somebody else updates sometime.
It's on the trust center, it's on the docs, it's on Learning Docs, right?
Yep. I'll dig it out.
Yeah.
I'm still learning myself.
Yeah. It's evolving. Ever evolving.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's all good. Yeah, just that ongoing thing. It's hilarious. Well, and there's it's what's the name of the types of tenants for the federal space?
GCC and GCC High. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's interesting. There's always like a few months delay in between releases, or a many month delay depending on the capability, and that's always an interesting sticking point, it seems. But obviously they need to do it to ensure that it's end-to-end secure. So I feel that is an important thing to keep in mind.
Yeah, and like the civilian agencies are on different. So like once you get into the federal space, not only do you have GCC High, but you also have impact level. So IL, IL2, IL4, IL5. Like I think the majority of the federal civilian agencies are on IL4, but DoD is specifically on their own, which is IL5, impact level 5, and then like Intel, all the 3-letter agencies, they're on IL6. So, and I think there's even an IL7. And like the higher you get, it's like the higher impact to national security if something, gets breached, right? So there's even beyond just GCC and GCC High where they're hosting their data.
Cool. Thank you for reminding me about that. That's really interesting.
I felt like a cool nerd because I was like, oh, that's GCC. But now I thank you, Andy, for like, this is serious business. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, all right. Like, what are you most excited about getting back into it? Like, do you just because it's your comfort level or what?
I mean, for one thing, when you're in the field, right, it's a different beast when you're supporting like organizations. So, like in U.S. manufacturing, we support everyone from, common companies that you might know, like John Deere, Intel, AMD, SpaceX. There's a couple, companies that people know right off the bat, but there's like 460 some organizations, and we divvy it up between all of us. And so I think I was directly responsible for like about 60, and each one makes a different widget or gadget. And Some of them do have defense sectors. They'll make like Oshkosh Trucking Company is a good one that comes to mind. I live in Wisconsin, so like they're up in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. They manufacture a lot of the fire trucks for almost every single fire company in the U.S., but also they manufacture the MRAPs. So if you're in the military, the MRAPs replace the Humvee as like the main troop carrier, and so they have defense contractors there. But it's a little bit farther away from like the defense sector, and getting into the defense sector, I'm supporting one customer that has hundreds of thousands of employees, so it's a whole different level of discussion, scaling. You have the complexity of the different impact levels and so on and so forth. So plus I was an Air Force veteran, so going back to support the Air Force is going to be a trip, being able to go on site and visit the bases and stuff like that. So
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Nice. Very cool. Very cool. Andy, you brought up your technology domains of choice under the Defender stack, Sentinel, and I also understand identity and access management is one of your key areas. Can you tell us about the type of work that you engage with customers on in these disciplines? Like, what does your day-to-day look like in that respect?
Yeah. So typically, as a pre-sales person, anyone who's been in an organization who wants to buy something new, you understand that there's like a salesperson who kind of comes in, gives you a basic overview, and then there's a sales engineer specifically that comes in and does like the demo, answers all the technical questions. We usually get to interact with the tech teams, which is kind of the fun part of it. So very similar at Microsoft, but on a larger scale, because Microsoft just has so many other products, right? Like, so if you're looking at Azure, we have, an Azure technical specialist. We have, if you're looking at Power BI or apps, we have folks who do that. And so we have folks like myself who specialize just on the security stack. And so my day-to-day is generally, once there's an opportunity, a sales opportunity for someone to buy something within the Defender stack. I work with mostly, enterprise customers. So anyone who has an enterprise agreement already. So usually the larger organizations that have an account executive assigned to it. There's a security specialist who does all the vetting for the opportunities. And then when they're like, yeah, that sounds great. Can you show us a demo? Or, and that's when they bring me in. I do the art of the possible demo environment. And then usually that's it. I sometimes show up for an hour and then I don't hear from them ever until they sign the contract, because I'm not really involved in the legalese of the EA or the negotiations for the pricing and all of that, right? The deal desk does all of that. So I have a great job because I just show in, I show them the technology, I show them how great it is, and then I leave. And then sometimes months later, they're like, yeah, great job on the demo that sold, the deal for us. So typically it is just that. My day-to-day is changing quite a bit now with this job, but that's kind of in general what a security TS does is, we go in and show them, Defender for endpoint or Defender for Office, Defender for identity. We handle a lot of the identity conversations, like the Entra suite, and then Sentinel, so a lot of that, and we just demo.
Thank you. You make it sound so effortless. So I'm in the, the trenches, as it were, with the the sales folks and the pre-sales folks, and I'm, considered pre-sales in many respects. But you have to stay on top of the technology. You have to go in, and you have. Depending on the level of trust that's already been built with the customer, you have to go in and strengthen it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to showcase the power of the solution, and then really understand the customer's situation and the problems and the pain points they're trying to solve, and kind of figure out on the fly often, because like not all the discovery is typically done by the time you get there. So I think you're downplaying what you have to be pretty magnificent at your role, and then especially because they said, Andy, you're going to take you from this commercial sector and we're going to put you in like the most sensitive, high stakes position for our national safety. Like You must be pretty phenomenal.
I'm all right. I mean, there's a lot of smart
We got a
people
big shot
here.
here. Come on,
that are
Andy.
all
You're more
smarter
than
than me.
all right. You're good, bud. Thank
I
you.
mean, the fact that you said and Sentinel as though it's like and Sentinel, but like
yeah.
Sentinel is a
Sentinel.
huge thing. Like for I talk to customers like, they want to pull their hair out for Sentinel, just Sentinel alone, right?
Yeah, and I think that's also part of the big challenge of the role at Microsoft Security Technical Specialist is that we do cover quite a bit, and with the shifting of different responsibilities, we there's just so much that we end up covering. Not only like the Sentinel piece, but we don't have any identity TSs, so that kind of falls under the security TS.
That's
We
surprising.
often, yeah, and we often don't have people who are focused on like Intune. We have the cloud endpoint TS, which their role kind of shifted into virtualization this year, like on Windows 365 and AVD, Azure Virtual Desktop. And so the Intune conversation being like as part of the licensing, it's an ME3 licensing, and in the field, ME3, like most of our customers are ME3 already, and so it's not something that we have specialty in, because over the years they've kind of eliminated that specialty. So like for someone like me, I have a lot of legacy knowledge on that, but a lot of new people coming in, they don't really focus on Intune or Entra at all. And so we cover all of that, and then all the other security add-ons, right? Like external attack surface management that was acquired by Risk IQ, Entra permissions management, CSPM, the cloud security posture management in Defender for Cloud alone is like a massive list of different things that are included in it. So we recognize that in manufacturing. Actually, last year, Security Copilot came out, and they're like, yeah, you need to know that too. And we're like, whoa, this is a lot of stuff that you're asking us to be the expert on. And so we kind of actually organized ourselves into like different areas that we would focus in, and not really like we're not expected to cover something, but if we have extra time and we need to focus our learnings into something, like imagine how many, I did distill our role down to like one basic thing, but in the other times that we're not talking to customers, we're watching, the webinars that you have, like for Defender for Experts, or different meetings, roadmap meetings, internal stuff. So there's a lot of extra things. And if I have to pick, because they overlap, there's multiple office hours and stuff that overlap. So we kind of just decided amongst ourselves, like, if we have time and we need to focus on an area, this is the area you're going to focus on. So I was tagged because of my legacy knowledge on being more the identity focused person within manufacturing. We have people who are more cloud security centric. And then, of course, XDR, right? So we have people who are really deep in Defender for Office, Defender for Endpoint. And not to say that I don't know any of that, right? Like we were still expected to have a TS level knowledge. We call it like 200 level, right? You got to be 200 level across the board for the most part. And then 300 to 400 in one or two areas. So that's how it was a lot. And so, and even at now, it's even more, because the way that the federal space is organized. In manufacturing, we have compliance TSs that cover the purview stack, and we have cloud endpoint TSs that cover, the Windows 365 stuff. In the federal space, they don't have that. They just have the security TS.
Oh,
so Swiss Army knife of everything.
Yeah.
Andy's got to learn Purview tomorrow, is what I'm hearing. Yeah.
I do need to get a little bit more versed in it, but the beauty of the Air Force is that they're actually already E5. And so
I would hope so.
Yeah, my focus is mostly going to be on the Defender for Cloud stuff in the future, because that's where a lot of what we call in sales the white space, right? That's the opportunity. That's where we have area to grow.
Nice. Very cool, man. Very cool. Your role sounds similar to the architect role in industry solutions, where you need to be broad across a lot of different disciplines, and then ideally deep in a few. And that can change depending on if you're more pre-sales focused or more delivery focused. But I think the the grind is real, Andy. It's anytime there's a gap in your calendar, it's either you have to be heads down focused, or you have to be multitasking, maybe not effectively, by absorbing videos and whatnot, and being up to speed, because it's still a challenge at times internally to be kept up to speed on what's new and exciting. And if I don't know about you, but like I'm a very kinesthetic learner. I need to have like a demo lab. I need to be like playing with something. I need to like see for it, mess with it myself. If you don't have the time to be able to dedicate to that, and all of a sudden you're expected to turn around and have a deep level 400 conversation with a high priority customer, I mean, it's game on, man. Like it's a time.
Yeah, it's tough for sure.
Nice.
Andy's like, I always just absorb it.
And he's like, these guys.
Never
I learned Sentinel last night in my sleep. Not a problem.
Well, And do you have like tips or like your personal best practices to make sure you're bare minimum proficient in a specific workload or solution?
I don't know if I have any like really good tips, but just because like there's so many different things. So a lot of the times, let's say like I remember, one of my security specialists asking me, hey, we need to do a demo on Defender for threat intelligence and the integration between Sentinel. And I was like, I've never done that before. I don't really, like I don't know a whole lot about it. And then like third party threat feeds, like ISAC feeds. And I was like, I never heard of that. I actually don't know about it, and there's just so many different facets of security that threat intel, it's its own pillar.
Yes, it is.
Right. Like, so that in itself is its own pillar. So like, I understand what it is. I can like demo where it is in Defender, but integrations and how that stuff works third party. So I had to learn it on my own. And so part of it is just, you got to get good at your internet foo, right? Like looking up YouTube videos. Microsoft has a bunch of really good like security community videos that we've done in the past. They're all recorded. And then peers, like I said, in manufacturing, we have folks who are specialized in that area. We have former CSAs, cloud solution architects, who've come over to become TSs. So you got to use all the resources that you have available. And then, of course, playing around in my own demo tenant once I figure it out and then test it, and then I can demo it. So I do have the combination of reading, watching videos, networking with people who are smarter than I am, and then hands-on demoing is really what it comes down to before I can really speak intelligently to it.
I love it. Nice. Do you have your own like because I feel like I'm homing in on your personal tenant that you've spun up. It's not the general sandbox environment, because we all know that.
Yeah. So I have developed quite a large demo environment myself over the years. I have a server rack that's off camera right now, a rack mounted server for you. Server that it's like 128 gigs of RAM and like 60 terabytes of storage, and so I can spin up a VM on prem, and play around with that. I don't have anything connected to Azure currently, but in the past I've used a site-to-site VPN to connect to Azure, and then spin up a DC or something like that in the cloud, connect to DCs on prem, and have that whole like hybrid environment. It's a lot of work to maintain.
Yes, it is.
So you have to like keep everything up to date, and it's also a lot of it's a big electricity bill to pay. So it's not as extensive today, but if I need it, it's there. I do have a few like containers and stuff running, but yeah, I have a whole Azure test tenant that is mine with a subscription. I have my own on-premise.
That's just for sharpening your skills.
Yep.
And do you feel like that is a worthwhile investment to stay sharp in your role and your awareness?
Absolutely. I think really anyone in tech, and specifically in security, you got to have your own. I think all of us mostly learn through doing. So if you don't have that ability to click through everything and have that hands-on experience, it's really hard to learn stuff. So there's a lot of different resources that you can get also without having to pay for all that, right? Like you can use an existing VM, or you can use like an existing machine, right, to run a VM. I use something called Unraid to run my home lab. It's great operating system. I used it specifically because it has the capability to load onto any single old computer, or you can build there's plenty of articles out there about Unraid labs, but you can spin up VMs. It has its own thing, and it runs off of USB. So like the operating system, you can just boot off of a USB. And so I just have a single little USB that it runs off of, and it's I think there's still a free version, but the licensed version, like a lifetime license, was like $80 or like $120 or something like that.
Lifetime, one time.
Yeah. So not too expensive, and you can run it on an old computer. But if you don't have that, I mean, obviously you can use like VirtualBox or something like that to run a VM.
It's like VirtualBox, VMware.
Yeah, and you have like eval copies of Windows that you can download, 6 months editions for servers, I think it's 90 days for Windows. Linux obviously is free. So there's a lot of ways to build a home lab. Even like a Raspberry Pi. Like I started off with like Raspberry Pis, right?
Nice.
And lot you can do there. So and then networking is not my background, but I've learned a lot having my own networking equipment. So as you like get more money and you can invest in this type of gear, I use Unify, which is like Enterprise Edition. I have like a security web gateway and like a 16 port switch and everything running.
I know Edward is missing out right now. I know he would have been all over this. Oh my goodness. We need to have you back, Andy, just so we can have Noodle is having a moment.
Noodle's geeking out too. Edward would have started asking Andy troubleshooting questions 100%. He started hearing this, like, hey, I got a problem. How do you run into this? That would have been 15 minutes right there. Yeah, but I love that, man. I know a lot of people have got their own racks at home.
Yeah.
I tried to run VM infrastructure just off of my desktop for a while there, and you're right. My hybrid identity environment lost sync, and I've pretty much given up on it now. And I try to do everything in a nested Hyper-V environment in Azure. But once in a while, you really want that physical, I can touch it. It's a little bit different, right? It responds a little bit differently. And to your point, hey, you know what? You weren't playing with the plumbing before, and now you are with your switch and everything else. So that's cool, man.
Yeah.
Very cool. And you can, and if all this doesn't work out and you just want to all work in the cloud, you can always just rent it out as a Minecraft server. So
sure.
Yeah, there we go. We'll value add.
Fall back.
So, hey, okay, you're already mentoring myself and Ray and our listeners and viewers on how to be the #1 security TS that we've ever had on the show. And I know that you wanted to talk about your work with the Microsoft Systems Setup Academy. Want to get into that, introduce viewers and listeners into what that is and what you do and the value that it provides.
Yeah, sure. So I've done mentoring with it's called MSSA, the Microsoft Software and Systems Academy, pretty much every year that I've been at Microsoft. So I just passed my 5-year mark, so I've been doing it for 5 years. And
where's your crystal?
It's coming. It's in the mail.
It's in the mail.
Why are you interrogating, Bert? It's like you're going to fail the lie detector, Andy. It's all done.
I just love how passionate people are about the crystal at Microsoft, and I'm on 4 years, and I'm like, should I get it? Should I get the cash? I have to get a shelf. Anyway, I'm sorry. I totally got us off track.
I thought about getting the cash, but I was like, after taxes, it's going to be like $50 or something like that.
No,
so
get the crystal. You maybe sell it on eBay and get more money out of it.
Sure, but it got shipped to Redmond. So I actually got some, archaic email automated from the Redmond mail room, and they're like, "Hey, we got this package for you. Like, send us, where can you come pick it up?"
Exercise, Andy. Do we?
Yeah, exactly. So they're sending in the mail. I got some email that they said it was shipped.
Sweet.
But yeah, this MSSA program is it's actually fully funded now. It's been fully funded by Microsoft for the last 4 years since the pandemic, and it is for active duty military members who are transitioning to civilian life or veterans. And there's a couple other ones, but which I'll talk about real quick. But essentially, it's a program that you can apply for. There's several different tracks for it. There's cybersecurity operations, server cloud administration, and cloud application development. Active duty, veteran, guard, reserve, transitioning military members. And so you can apply. It's like a 17-week program, and they essentially they educate you. It's a whole program. You know, if and a lot of it is if you're trying to transition skills that you learned in the military into tech. So some people in the military come from like networking or identity or something like that, right? Or cloud. They've administered servers, maybe AD. But some people they're like a cook, or they're infantrymen, or they're like, a tank guy or whatever it is, right?
Tank guy.
Yeah.
Tank
What
girl,
do they
it's all
call
good.
Girl,
it?
great movie. Great movie.
I had a guy who was like
Cinematic masterpiece.
a minesweeper. Like he like rode in a little like thing and like picked up mines or like drove over them or something like that. I don't know.
Sweet.
But for those folks who are transitioning, those skills specifically, like their job doesn't really translate to a civilian job. And so I help them with skills that are that would be beneficial to employers, like teamwork or the ability to be mission focused, teachable, right? Like
You help them parlay the skills they've already developed into the tech space. That is so incredible. That's amazing.
So it's a great program, and they've opened it up with a pilot program for spouses. So military spouses have the ability to apply. The one program for that is technical program management. So not necessarily in the other ones, but that's also really important.
They're doing the station too, right? So that's amazing.
Yeah, and then also there's a new cohort in the MSSA Europe. So MSSA is all U.S. time frame, I do have like folks who are in the military who are like in Japan, and they're like 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning calling into these calls. There's a new one for Europe that includes UK service members as well. That is all and US service members, and it's on like European time. So that's nice. And so yeah, it's a great program. And I, not only for me, like it's important to give back to the community because I had very great mentors in cybersecurity. Like all of my mentors, people take their time out to help me, teach me, and I just think it's important to give back. And then for me, just helping veterans and people coming off of military, a lot of them have never interviewed for a job, they've never written a resume, all these different skills that they need to learn, and then also just be able to translate some of their military experience into stuff that is valuable for employers to hear, because I think it's important to that military members, veterans, have some of the best experience, and sometimes employers kind of see right through that, and they don't really understand what they're getting with someone who's been in the military. So,
nice. Well, especially the transferable skills coming into cybersecurity, right? Mission driven, adversarial based work,
resilience.
Yeah. Great word.
Yeah. And just like
my friends are military background. The only people that can like withstand me have some military. They're like, you're not that. We've seen real bad stuff. You're up there, but you're not. You don't.
Yeah. Like the ability to like find a way to get something done, right? Not providing you with all of the different instructions. Like a lot of people you have to like tell them how to do it.
Stick-with-itness and resourcefulness, yeah.
Like you tell a military member, like we need to do this, okay, and they just kind of find a way to get it done. And also like the military has a pretty diverse group of people coming out, and I think more so than standard industry. And I just think like it's so important to have diversity in cybersecurity, because like our attackers, they they don't care. They
Right.
don't care if you are they don't care about your color, your religion, your sex. They don't care anything about that. So bringing in like a diverse way of thinking
Mhm.
gives you different ideas, different thought processes, different ways
Covering all
of
the
protecting.
bases, or as
Yeah,
many, more comprehensive. Yeah.
yeah.
100%. Was it Vasu that always says it's like, hey,
Yes,
we need everybody.
absolutely.
Doesn't
It's a
matter.
team sport. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we got Ray here. So it wasn't just a big dude fest on our podcast. We need
Well,
Ray's first experiences. Yeah.
I'm the resident android, so
Yeah.
there is that. Andy, may I ask, can anybody volunteer to mentor, or do you have to have prior military experience?
Anyone can mentor who is a Microsoft FTE.
Wow,
Pretty much anyone in Microsoft can sign up to be a mentor.
that's awesome.
A lot of them do have military experience, but you're that's not really the whole goal of the program, right? As a mentor,
Mhm.
you're really trying to teach them about tech and uh, being a civilian. And so they'll ask questions. It's funny, like the questions that they ask, like how do you get training for your job, right? Because like the military, they literally send you to training.
Mhm.
You show up at your duty station and like, here's this manual, read this, and then we're sending you to training. Like, next week you're going to go to school, you're going to learn the thing and do your job. But that's not what it's like at a company, right? Like you just show up and they're like, here's your computer, have fun. And then
Yeah.
you get like one day of like walking through the different systems and you get access to things. They're like, okay, now do your job. So,
Yeah.
and so yeah, it's like they ask about your experience. They also ask about Microsoft. A lot of them have a chance. Every single one of them has a chance to interview internally for positions as well. So we tell them like what type of positions are available, like Azure support, program management, field sales, so on and so forth. And so there's been plenty of them who have moved into jobs at Microsoft, but also just found jobs in general at tech.
Nice. Very cool. Thank you, and to all the volunteers who put in the time to make that program a success. And you heard Andy, that's a shout out. Always looking for volunteers, always looking for people to help. Reach out. That'd be fun. Andy, who can folks reach out to if they're interested in volunteering? Sorry to put you on the spot.
Yeah. Let me find the name here. The Eric Van Horn, I think, is the program manager. Or Von Horn.
Sweet. Well, and if there's another individual, we can always add it in the show notes
Yes,
after for folks. But just
Yeah, I'll send you the contact information for the notes, so that they can reach out if they want to volunteer.
perfect. Yeah, sounds good. And just a nice note from Steven here, joining us from X, the artist formerly known as Twitter, saying like, "Hey, thanks for what you're doing with the program, and you're moving on to awesome new things. Hey, you're getting more involved in the military program aspect." That was for Ray apparently.
Am I moving on to others? What?
I got confused with Stephen's comment. I'm sorry, Stephen. Anyway, that's fine. We're not going to edit that out because we're live. That's how we roll here. So moving on. But anyway, thanks, Andy. We got the shout out for the volunteers. We appreciate it. We'll get the contact details. Let's pivot. Let's use this awkward misconfusion moment to pivot to a new feature we call Tech and Trends. Tech and Trends.
Ooh.
That's the splash screen I didn't make in time. And Andy, I know, wants to talk about a really interesting topic that I want to learn more about. I'm sure everybody wants to learn more about, and that's token theft and how we mitigate risk against token theft. Andy, what's token theft? Why should people care? And what can we do to get in front of this?
Wow, that's a lot in like 3 questions right there.
Take your time.
Yeah, I mean, so token theft is something that is fairly new, right? And when I say token, like there's a bunch of different types of tokens. So it's like really important to understand that there's I would say when it comes to Microsoft, there's like 3 primary types of tokens. There's the session token, which is the more long-lived token. And by default, I think that is a rolling window of 90 days. So as long as you're active with that authentication identity, it will never expire as long as you like touch it within 90 days. And there's also the access token, which you once you authenticate successfully and get your session token, that can be exchanged for an access token for a specific application. That's short-lived. By default, it's an hour. And then there's the PRT, the primary refresh token that's associated with like an Entra registered device. And all of those have like the ability to get stolen. I think the PRT, most recently I saw a blog, and they used Mimikatz to like steal the PRT plus the session key, and they're able to like mint their own PRTs after that. They're all pretty sophisticated attacks, and when you're talking like to a red team person, they may think it's pretty trivial, but based on our data and like identity attacks, they're still fairly rare. Like less than 5% of all identity attacks in general involve token theft. So when these tokens are stolen, you can then replay them without having to authenticate again. So bypassing like your other controls like MFA, right? So like after the user puts in their username or password, if you're still using passwords.
Who uses passwords anymore? Come on.
A little bit of shade, Andy. You're like, who's using password?
And yeah, exactly, right? So if you're still using passwords and then MFA, you've completed that authentication. Now you have these session tokens, and so if an attacker somehow gets that session token, and there's a lot of different ways to get it, right? There's like cross-site scripting, where they're injecting scripts, or just a basic packet sniffer, or attacker in the middle. So there's like so many different ways. Cookies, will have session tokens associated with them as well. Once they get it, they can replay that token and impersonate that user without having to re-authenticate. And most organizations, right? They only have MFA to protect against identity attacks for the most part. Talking with customers in manufacturing and really like across the board, it's really just MFA is like the baseline. And
if they have that.
If they have that, and which is surprising that there's still organizations out there that have not rolled out MFA. And so
if this is you, smarten up. Thank you. Yeah, carry on. Yeah.
So like when it comes to identity theft, again, it's just pretty rare, but it is a concern. So for, I would say, organizations who are more mature in their identity stance, in their security stance, right? You have the ability to, first, obviously MFA, but then Microsoft came out with public preview of token binding, right? So that's the ability to essentially constrain the token to the device that it was issued on.
Oh, smart.
Like physical, like at that point, right?
There's an artifact within the token that is cryptographically bound to the device that it was issued on. Smart. And so that makes it obviously a lot harder to replay the token, because you can't replay it. So like I use the example, I like analogies to like customers if they're trying to understand this, or people who are learning it for the first time, right? Like your session token. So like if I have to go to like Six Flags, right, an amusement park, that the amusement park's like the IDP, the identity provider. And then your session token is like a season pass to Six Flags, right? And when I go to Six Flags, I might have to show them my season pass, and they give me like a ticket for a ride. The ticket is your access token, and you get to go on that ride. And then you might have to go back and get another ticket. That's kind of an easy way to explain it. But now, when I get that token, right, my season pass has my picture on it, right? So someone steals it, they can't just like show them the season pass. It now has my picture on it, and they know it's obviously not me, right? So that's kind of the easy way with the token binding to explain it in layman's terms, very generalized. And so because we have this capability, we do have like an API, or we've exposed it to developers so that they can enlighten their apps with token binding. And so we're building it into our apps. We've enabled developers to build it into their apps. And once you have it built into the app, so like for us, it's in private preview for native applications that access Exchange Online services, team services, Exchange services. You can then scope obviously a conditional access policy around that to say, you must check for token protection.
Right.
So,
or alert on if someone is attempting to use a token that's not bound.
Well, it'll just reject the authentication.
All right, fair.
Yeah. So it's conditional access. So upon authentication, if the token doesn't match, then you just reject the authentication. Yeah. So that's in public preview now. And there's other things like,
so like there's can you, like a partner pick this up and just start creating capabilities or like modules? That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Like a no-brainer.
Yeah. I mean, we've exposed this so that developers can make their app enlightened. It's the same thing with continuous access evaluation, right? CAE, like that is also a capability that developers can enable on their application. So, and that is another area to protect against token protection, because that access token is an hour long, right? Like I said, it was an hour long, but with continuous access evaluation, again, for those Microsoft Exchange services, Teams, and SharePoint, you can enable CAE. And so it's, for the most part, like the goal is near real time, evaluation of whether or not that access token is still valid. So
nice.
A lot of times back in the day before CAE was available, if you disabled someone's identity, right? You talk about like a time that lagging for an attacker to like attack, or really maybe even an insider risk, right? You disable their AD credentials. There's that Entra Connect sync, which doesn't happen right away. Might it be every 30 minutes, 50 minutes? You can obviously do a manual dir sync, of course, but there's still some lag time there. And then there's that access token that's available for an additional 60 minutes, right? Or whenever it was issued. So if you just catch it like right in the beginning, it's still valid for 59 minutes or whatever. But with CAE, they lose their access pretty much as soon as it hits the cloud. That identity is disabled and you're done. So, nice. And developers can again like enlighten their apps with CAE when possible. So that's a few things. And then I tell companies all the time, because they're like, "Oh, token theft is this crazy thing," and I'm like, "Well, are you doing the basics? Like,
it's always the question, eh?
Yeah. Are you patching?"
Well, no. Okay.
Yeah, and that's really like when it comes down to it, like this is an advanced attack. It's not something that we see all the time. So just continue to do the basics, because if I'm an attacker, right? Use it like a physical security thing. If I am a burglar and I want to like rob a house, and I go up to the house and the light turns on automatically and shows my face, I'm probably not gonna want to stay, right? Or if I see a camera, or if I test the door and it's locked, right? But if I like go up to a house, they have no lights on, and I open the door and it's unlocked, well, opportunity, right? I'm going to find the lowest hanging fruit. And so if you're patching, if you have an EDR, with Microsoft Defender for Endpoint and Entra protection, we have the capabilities of also detecting token replay. So patching, you can use something like network-based conditional access too. That does help. I would caution against using that. A lot of companies have used network-based conditional access to say that's the only thing, and then if you're within those network perimeters, turn off certain features like MFA, and that would be a big no-no, right?
Against the entire zero trust mindset.
Exactly. Yeah. Like don't disable something because you think you're safe. Like add it on as another layer, right? You must have MFA. You also must be coming from a known network. So things like that, I would say, are some good protections.
There you go. Hey, that's very enlightening. I just want to get a joke out of the way, if you don't mind. It's a bad joke, but I'm sure Cookie Monster is out there and he's concerned about his access to the Sesame Street kitchen and losing his token via a cookie. And now he knows that using CAE and other capabilities in the E5 stack will prevent Oscar from getting in.
Oh my gosh.
Accessing his cookies. So just want
That-
to say, yeah.
That was mind-bogglingly good. All we needed was Brody's analogy, Andy.
And he's nailing it with his analogies, by the way. We'll pivot from my bad joke very quickly. Andy, like this is how you know you're.
No, he's incredible. And I was like, first of all, like, let me just talk to Andy. Andy, is it public preview or private preview?
It's public preview.
Oh my God, is there a link? Can we share a link? Can people?
Yeah.
Is there more information where folks can get download the kit and participate, etc.? Or
I don't think it's a scoped public preview.
Okay.
Yeah, I think anyone can.
And if there's not, that's okay. But I've like always talk build your own lab. I don't know. I just like hold on a second. And how are you just a TS? I feel like this is a weird like a montage of like I'm just this guy, and then all of a sudden it's like the sorcerer behind all of.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
I'm definitely not that good.
Okay.
Come on, no, he's modest as well. No,
I think that's funny because like I think in security. And I talk about this all the time with other folks, and especially in mentoring, is we all have imposter syndrome, right? There are so many people that are smarter than you, and you're always going to find someone who's smarter than you. And I really have a problem calling myself, an expert. I don't think I'm an expert in anything. I think I'm smart in some things, but yeah, I definitely share imposter syndrome along with anyone who's in security. So I just talk about the things I know, and if you can learn from me, that's great. If you're smarter than me, awesome. I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to talk to you and learn. So I think that's important.
Andy, if people want to hear, I will just replay this single episode again and again. But if folks wanted to hear new stuff from you, or even other stuff that you talked about, how can they do that without stalking you? That's
So I do have my own podcast.
Oh, what a great segue and a total surprise that we're onto this topic. Great one, Ray. Keep going.
Yeah. So I do have my own podcast. I host it with a colleague of mine, Adam Brewer. We were together, and the funny thing is that as part of mentoring and teaching, we had found that we were having the same conversations with customers, over and over again. You must do this. You should have managed machines, and require managed machines. You should enable MFA, and then all the different things. Like when I first started at Microsoft, all the different Windows security features that I didn't even know about, like Defender Credential Guard and exploit protection, attack surface reduction rules, all those different things that I had no idea. I'd been in tech, I'd been in security, that I didn't know that Enterprise, so Windows Enterprise, has all these different features. And so we were educating and talking, and we were like, hey, we should start a podcast about this. And so
that's how it starts.
We did that, yeah. And so over 200 episodes later, we've been going since September 2020, weekly, and we haven't missed a show in that entire time. Nice. So yeah, we go over. I try to keep it focused on like specific actionable things that you can do to make your company more secure. Because when I go to tech conferences and people talk about all these different things, the ones that I really find engaging and I tell myself, oh, this was worth the price of coming to the conference, is when I get a to-do, right? Like someone says something, they're like, you should check your environment for this, or you should do this at your environment. I'm like, I don't know about that. Let me go check it, right? And so we try to do a lot of shows on prescriptive guidance on things that we think will help your organization get better. We also do a lot of news, but we don't do it in a way like this is what happened. We do our own analysis of what you can learn from that, kind of doing an academic breakdown, because that's really, as a community, I don't think it's very good to criticize when someone has a breach, right? CrowdStrike is a good example. They're a Microsoft competitor. And in the past, they've been a little bit more hostile to Microsoft. But we did a whole show on the CrowdStrike incident when it happened back in like July last year. But we did it from an academic standpoint of like, this is what happened, this is the risk, and here's what you can do to get better. And I think every single incident has something that you can take away and learn from in the community, and you shouldn't be that person in the glass house throwing rocks, essentially, right? It's like just make sure that we're always learning and helping each other, because my coworker says often, a rising tide lifts all ships. Yeah. So if one organization gets more secure and helps another organization get more secure,
the interconnectedness,
yeah, 100%. Yeah, we're all in this together. It's not an easy discipline to be in.
No.
So yeah, well stated. Well stated. I like when you do your own takes on the news. You're just reading the news. It's like reposting without adding any value. Now you're just repeating, right? So it's nice to actually have that individualized approach and deep dive, which I appreciate. And Andy, I think the show's fantastic. I was a guest on a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. Adam and Andy are huge audiophile. Well, Andy is the audiophile on the program, and I think we spent like 30 minutes just talking about their equipment setup and their post editing capabilities. But you and Adam had an idea because of experiences you were having in the real world, and you came together, you made a podcast. And I think there's a number of individuals out there who have similar traits and experiences and capabilities to offer, but they don't know how to get their message out. And one of the things that I like to do as part of our worldwide community, and one of the things that we like to do on both of our podcasts, is give people a voice, give people a platform. But it sounds like it's also an excellent opportunity to say, hey, you can also give yourself a platform and others if you ever want to dive into this. And of course, there's a lot of podcasts out there, and it's not hard to start up a podcast, but it's tough to be effective and valuable long term. And I think you're a great example, if I may, of that, because you're on my very short list, and it's actionable, it's intriguing, it's not just reading the headlines. So I think just bravo to you folks, and then a shout out to anybody who wants to get involved in podcasting, either as a guest or a host. I would highly encourage it. Nothing else, you'll learn something about yourself. And the best part is you may be able to enable others who wouldn't have that voice.
Yeah, the podcast name, someone had asked in the chat here, it's called Blue Security Podcast. So our idea was, really around defenders. And because we're not red teamers. I'm not a threat intel expert. We did have a threat intel expert come on the show. So we did do something in that. And in fact, a lot of military members transition to security. If they were like military intel, they transition to security because the way that they do a real world threat analysis against an enemy is very similar to how threat intelligence analysts in security do the same thing. So Blue Security Podcast. And I would say, just from anyone can start a podcast, but I always thought it was really important when we talked about it when we first started was, number one, have good audio, because I'm also an avid listener of podcasts, and when they have poor audio, I can't really focus. So a little bit of investment on the mic and platform editing, and then also be consistent, because a lot of podcasts start and then they don't release an episode for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, very inconsistent. So we were like, if we're going to do this, we're going to commit to, doing it every week. And then also have like a very focused topic, right? Just some people, it's like we just come on and talk about anything, but if you focus on
I know. You don't need the shade, Andy. It's fine.
Sometimes our guests cancel and we have to meet the deadline. It's like, well, we got to talk about something. No, but Andy, you're right. Broadly, yes, keep going.
Yeah. Just have like a way, because like especially in security, there's like so many security podcasts, right? And so, like I said, we really wanted it to be focused around defenders, and then and how like a thing that you could do to make your organization safer. So yeah.
Nice, man.
Thanks for the plug, by the way.
Oh yeah, no problem at all. And I want to get Ray, we talked before the show. I said, Ray would be a great guest to have. Video about defender experts. So I'm gonna.
Yeah. We have not done a defender experts show, so I would love to have Ray on to talk about that.
That'll be when you start the expose on.
No, Andy's co-host Adam is a big talker like me too, so I want to get him on the show because I think he would also have a lot of value to add.
Yeah,
Andy, you and Adam have like a good back and forth as we're wrapping up here. Have you ever considered going on like joint speaking engagements?
Like conferences. What's going on with that circuit? Tell me.
We're looking at that right now. But go ahead.
I've done a few conferences. It's usually kind of tough because sometimes conferences don't like you to be talking too much about a specific vendor. If you do, they want you to sponsor it, and Microsoft just having very little like way. It's just really tough to get sponsored from Microsoft, which is surprising. You go to like any podunk conference in the middle of nowhere, and they've got like a CrowdStrike, booth or something like that, because their field representatives have budget set aside for that, and we really don't. We really work through our EAs, and the big ones we have sponsors, right? Like
RSA.
Yeah, exactly. Those massive ones. One conference that I love, and I've applied to be a speaker this year. And I've been a attendee at this conference for the last like 4 years, and I'll give them a plug. Is the Experts Conference, TEC. It's hosted by Quest, who is a vendor, but they have a pre-day where they talk about their tools and their solutions. But the rest of the time, it's very Microsoft centric. They have MVPs that speak there. They have product group folks from Microsoft that go there. Alex Weinhart was one of the speakers there. They're really shifting to more identity centric type conference. They kind of want to establish themselves as like the go-to. But if you're a Microsoft technical person, this conference is excellent. They really have, like, I learn something every time I go. So I have gone every year since COVID. I attended it virtually twice. I'd found it like, and it's not something that breaks the bank either. Like it's fairly inexpensive when it comes to, if you're looking at RSA and it's like $3,000 or something like that to go, like this is under $1,000.
Nice. So what about any B-sides? Like you don't need to stay Microsoft focused. You're like a cyber practitioner, right? So.
Yeah. I haven't gone to B-sides personally, but there's some local ones. I live in Wisconsin, and one of our best conferences is called CyberCon.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a B-sides. It's like a hackerish conference. It really started off as like a more red team type like DEF CON, right? Like it was kind of like a DEF CON. It has like a key hacking village, and there was like an auto hacking village at one point. But they've expanded to more blue teamers. I spoke once last year at it, but it's also an excellent conference. That one and then Blue Team Con is great.
Yeah.
In Chicago. I've gone to that one before. I think,
basically Brody and I want to be in the audience as you present. We just want to like be on the Andy tour. Like
we'll be your hype squad. We like you've got two super neurodivergent hyperactive people right here. We'll be your hype squad. No problem.
Yeah. I think I'm last year I spoke at a few. This year I only applied to go to the Experts Conference, and I think they're still going through their approval.
It's grueling.
Yeah. It's a lot of work, right? Like you have to apply, and then not all of them sponsor your travel, so you have to self-fund. Yeah. I try to get Microsoft to sponsor me, and they won't do it. So it's
no, you're right there with you.
It's an investment, but if you want to hear me speak, the podcast is the tried and true way. It's a weekly podcast, and you'll get to see my ugly mug every week
and hear the best audio. Best audio.
Thank you.
I've got a list of like $1,000 and $2,000 worth of equipment that Andy's recommended that I now want.
We have new like complexes thanks to Andy's. Just right. Like, you guys don't have that. Like back when we got to our 20th episode, we were like, we gotta fix this, and we're like, no, that's good. This
is good. We should do this more often. We'll bring on other people who are better at us than podcasting, and they can tell us all the things that we need. Yeah. Yes.
Man, you guys are definitely the hype squad here.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad we could plug it. It's an awesome podcast. I would obviously support you in any speaking opportunity. I think that's fantastic. I heard about Sessionize, the website, where you can look for a lot of speaking conference opportunities, or just, to be a guest, be in the audience. And I've been looking at more public speaking opportunities lately, because honestly, I think we all need to get out in front of people more. And podcasting is a great way to do that when you're walking the dog, when you're driving the car, when you're sitting at work. But that face-to-face connection, and that ability to network with, I'll take your words from earlier, Andy, smarter people than I, is essential, right? It's essential for what we do and how we can stay relevant. So,
yeah. Someone mentioned, I think in the comments, Merrill Fernando, who's one of our Entra experts. He spoke at the expert conference, and Jeff, now his last name is blanking on me. But like there was a bunch of Entra, experts there, and I got to talk to them about stuff, and they're a lot smarter than I am when it comes to Entra stuff. So, someone Noodle's asking about my mic. No, I do not use a Shure. I actually use the Rode pod mic, and I have the Rodecaster, the original Rodecaster, as a amplifier, and then a bunch of other stuff like SLR camera, digital SLR camera, and A10 mini to change between different camera views. I have multiple different views, but you only see this one right now. I used to be a streamer. That's what I was gaming and doing streaming, and so
you couldn't tell at all. Neon lights, crisp, focused picture, great audio.
Yeah. So it's fun.
Yeah, no doubt. And you dropped me a link that I'm going to share with Noodle and the audience, which is a whole write-up from this individual on a website, which Andy says is basically gospel, that talks about podcasting microphones. So I want to drop that in there because I thought that was an excellent resource.
Yeah, he's really good because he does like real world testing of the mics and not like in a vacuum. So yeah, this is a dynamic mic. So if you know like about like different types of mics, it's a dynamic mic versus a condenser mic. The condenser mics I tried before. One that's pretty popular is like the one that you have is the Blue Yeti. But with kids running around and everything, like you just pick up everything. They're really meant for like a studio where there's like padded rooms and you have like just you. The dynamic mics are great because it picks up only like everything that's right in front of it versus like if there's stuff that's going on in the background, you won't hear it, which is great. So good for podcasting.
I'm going to upgrade because my baby is going to figure out how to come in and yell more and more as the years go on. So yeah, thanks, Andy. Now I know what to ask for Christmas instead of golf balls. So that works out.
Yeah.
We're wrapping up here. We had a great conversation. We talked about your intro background, your technology backgrounds, mentoring, MSSA, tech and trends, our new, as of today, subsection of our show, which I'll have to design a sweet jingle for. Token theft, fantastic conversation on token theft and the guidance to mitigate the risk. And we plugged the Blue Security podcast and speaking conferences and podcast audio and video in general. That is a fully loaded episode. Andy, is there anything else you want to leave our listeners and viewers with while they have your crisp, high definition audio in their ears?
Yeah, I mean, you had some good questions here that like I'll just kind of end with. Like different qualities that I find that are common within cybersecurity folks is really like, be curious, be tenacious, and always learning. Those are like my three things that, and then just like some perceptions, because like a lot of people have these like preconceptions of like what it means to be in cyber. We're not all hackers. So like you think cybersecurity and you immediately think like the hoodie, the black hoodie and like huddled over the keyboard and code running like the matrix on the computer. Like we're not all hackers. I'm not a hacker. I barely know how to code. Yeah. And also like you do not need to be technical to be in cybersecurity.
Good point.
You can be threat intelligence. You can do GRC. Like that's important, right? Like compliance and checklists and audits and stuff that might make people go to sleep. But if you have the right person who is
very glamorous field, Andy. It's very
sorry.
Those consultants make a lot of money. I just saying, like, if you're okay with a clipboard and making like $1,000 an hour, like that's a gig for you, you know? Like,
Yeah,
don't worry about it.
it's
Yeah.
great, and you don't have to be technical, right? And like program managers, right? You need people who are managing people and features and whatever. So, and I would say it's not easy money either, right? Like you're not going to get rich doing cybersecurity, and it's also not like you're never just like done with cybersecurity. Like you're always
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
always something else.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Yeah. And then I think the last one is, and I tell these folks that are getting in, they think it's like, I'm just going to find a job and make a ton of money. But the jobs are in, they're all on blue team for the most part, right? Like the majority of jobs are blue team jobs, defenders, because every company has them. Security analyst, engineer, architect. People think I'm just going to go into red teaming and pen testing and hacking. And I'm like, that's really difficult.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult to find a job. So, find it if you need to make money like for a living, like you need to pay your bills, like go into blue teaming because that's where the majority of the jobs are. So yeah, that's my advice for people is it's not super sexy, it's a grind, but it can be rewarding, especially if you have the opportunity. Like for me, what I love is really giving back and mentoring.
Nice, man. Great those closing thoughts. Excuse me. Yeah. I mean, hey, but if you can find that 0 day, and the government will pay you a few million for it, go for it. Yeah. But otherwise, I'm with you. It's defenders, right? It's defenders, and it's only going to be more prominent, I think, with the advent of artificial intelligence in all aspects of our lives. Like finding new vulnerabilities may become easier. Stopping adversaries may become tougher or easier. We'll see. But we need somebody at the helm. We need humans in the loop. We need dedicated, passionate people who want to give back to their communities, like yourself, Andy. So shout out to everyone out there and get involved. Get involved in the industry. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's it then. Ray, any closing thoughts from you? And we'll wrap it up.
That was phenomenal. Thank you so much, Andy, and thank you, Brody, for bringing Andy into this world, this community. Thank you. And I will be following your podcast too, and I'll be taking notes on how.
Thanks for having me. This has been a blast.
No sweat, man. We'll do it again. Now you're invited to the end of your Christmas party, so it's all good, and we'll get Adam on as well. All right, folks. Thank you. Can't talk. Thank you for listening, watching, being a part of the Microsoft Security Insight Show experience. We'll be back next week. Rod and Edward will be here, so Ray and I won't be talking as much. And we look forward to your ongoing participation and support. We really appreciate it. Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Blue Security Podcast, Cross Collab. Really, really appreciate all of everything you talked about today. So take care, enjoy, and see you next time. Bye. End stream.